on Power Talk AM 1460 and FM 101.1. Streaming worldwide on iHeartRadio. Jan Price talks to the movers and shakers in the film business. The Jan Price Show.
You're listening to The Jan Price Show, and today my guests are directors Kevin and Michael Goetz, and we're talking about their brand new movie, A Violent Separation. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having us. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. This is a really interesting movie. This is one of those movies, after you watch it, that you continue to think about, and I love movies like that you're always, afterwards you're going, let me think more about that movie. So let's talk, so our listeners know what we're talking about. Kevin, can you just lay out the plot line very quickly so everyone will know what we're talking about?
Yeah, it takes place in 1983 in a southern state with sort of a dysfunctional family, and we sort of focus in on these two brothers, one of which is a sort of spinning out of control, drinking too much, used to have it all, doesn't anymore. And then his younger brother, Norman, is just newly back from the military and has become a local cop. And as the story evolves, we get to see that they live together and on this ranch. And they're very kind of close to these two girls, Abby and Frances, who live on this ranch with them. And as the movie progresses, we've kind of got these two brothers have come to this big moment where the older brother, Ray, who's sort of the drunk, he accidentally shoots his girlfriend. He then proceeds to put her in a lake and get rid of her. And then you've got Norman, the younger cop brother, who he calls and says, I need you to help me cover this up. And that's basically the first 25 minutes. So from there on out, we've got this story of this dysfunctional family doing this very dysfunctional thing, and sort of how much the bonds of family and brotherhood and a lot more complicated things enter the picture, and basically watch these two brothers and their family kind of spiral out of control.
And Michael, you didn't write this script, either one of you, correct? You had who was the screenwriter for this?
That's correct. We did not write this. Michael Arkoff wrote this. We were coming off our first films called Scenic Route back in 2013 at South by Southwest Film Festival, and we were looking for our next project, and our agents and managers submitted Michael Arkoff's script, which we thought was so amazing the second we read it. He's a wonderful writer. This is actually the first thing he's had put to screen, but I'm sure he's going to have a lot more to come in the future.
I think so too. I definitely do. Kevin, there were so many things I liked about this movie. First, the opening scene, the visual, and then it's repeated again towards the end. I really loved that. Where did that come from? Is that something that was written into the script, or is that something that you and Michael envisioned?
That was something that came to us in editorial. It was so important for us to sort of set the mood for this film, because this film is certainly, all about the mood. And we didn't want to just open up on sort of the status quo of like life's good and everything's fine. We wanted to put a little bit of sense of dread that something bad's going to happen. And when we saw that shot, which, Sean O'Day was our DP, we remember getting that shot on the day. The sun was going down, and a couple of trucks. It was one of the first days we were out on location. And one of the crew trucks came flying down that dirt road and just kicked up all this dirt behind it. And so we said, oh my goodness, get Brenton, get Brenton's weights, let's get him into the cop car and let's have him fly down that road. Let's shoot super slow motion. We had one take before the sun went down, and that sort of became the iconic image of the film. I mean, it's him coming back at the end, it's him coming back at the beginning. It's got a lot of meaning when you see the movie a second time. Certainly that opening shot. So we were very happy with it.
Yeah, it just stays with you. And I'm glad it was, that you reused it again towards the end. So, it was a really interesting film in that respect, that interesting shot. So this script came to you, and you read it. So when you decided to do this, what was your thought process as far as how you were going to go direct this movie?
Well, we wanted the movie to live and die on the strength of the performances. I mean, this wasn't a whodunit. It wasn't really a mystery to the script. It wasn't so you couldn't rely on that. And it wasn't car chases and explosions. It was really going to come down to the actors and the relationships and the authenticity of this small town and everything that's going on therein. And so when we started the production process, it just began with casting. We just really set out to try to find the people who are hungriest, who are going to put in the time and the effort to do rehearsals and all the work that would be needed to try to make this, really come alive and jump off the page right from the get-go.
And how did you cast it?
Well, that was a very, very long process, starting probably back in 2014 when we decided we were going to make it. Ultimately, we didn't end up making it until, I guess, was it 18?
Yeah.
It was the end of 17. End of 17. October, November, we shot this in 2017. So it took a few years to find the right cast. And of course, some people came in and attached themselves and then they drop out for whatever reason because they've got a conflict. And it's not unique in this business how long it takes to get the right cast for something. But, once sort of Brenton came on, and funny enough, Brenton wanted to play Ray, the older brother, not the cop. And we had a talk with him and said, look, we really see you from all the stuff we've seen you in before, kind of having this something going on underneath that face of his that just feel like you could play Norman. And, within 5 minutes of talking to him, he's like, I'm on board. I can't believe it. He's like, I got to go back and read it, though, because I was reading it for Ray. And then, the next day he said he would do it. And then, of course, he had just gotten the show Titans on the DC network or whatever. And so we had a very quick, let's get this into production and let's cast everybody as quickly as we can. And it sort of came together from there. And we shot it in 18 days.
Wow. That's a tight shooting schedule.
Yeah, it really was. And of course, the first day of shooting was the latest recorded in history hurricane to hit Louisiana in November when we were starting. We lost the first day of shooting, and then the second day was, going through a foot of mud everywhere around that farmhouse.
No.
So, yeah, that's why we always say 17, 18 days. It was a whirlwind, but luckily the actors all were, rehearsed. We were able to have about a week with each of them down in Louisiana, acclimated and getting, acclimated to the weather because it's supremely hot down there, like beyond anything you've ever seen. And also just getting into character and feeling what it's like to be out here in the middle of nowhere and get into their characters. And so we were very lucky with that. So when we came to the 17 shooting days, we were on top of it as best we could be.
Again, it's very, very, very tight. Brenton does have this wonderful, innocent-looking face, and he reminds me. I kept racking my brain thinking about an actor that he reminds me of that was back in the 80s. I can't think of his name, but he looked so much like him. It was amazing. It was uncanny. And then then you have Ben Robson, who is so totally different looking. It was hard to, sometimes you go, could they really be brothers? Because there was such a distinct different look between the two of them, yet there was this chemistry, that they both had as brothers. I thought that was really, fascinating to watch their relationship. And you do wonder why they make the choice. You get frustrated sometimes by the choices everybody made in this movie, which is also makes you think a little bit more, too. And you have a great supporting cast with Gerald McRaney, who we haven't seen in a while, and Ted Levine, who I thought was just wonderful to watch in this movie. How did you attract both of those fine actors to this film?
I think the material just brought them in. The screenplay was so good and really made its way around town. Everybody seemed to love it as it went out. And so when we got on the phone with both of them, they responded very positively to the roles, and Ted thought, he said the one thing he said up front was, I've seen this small town sheriff before. I'd really like to come in and give it my own take if I can, starting with wardrobe all the way to my accent. And we said, look, whatever you can bring to it would be fantastic because he's so wonderful. Yes. And we thought he really pulled off such a great original take on it.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he's such a joy. Both of them were joys to work with. I mean, just really brought so much to the project, not only to their characters and their roles, but also just to the set, to the day. Being there, some of the younger cast, and having a good time, and it was really wonderful working with both of them.
I can imagine, and I think that would be wonderful to have these veterans who are very well renowned in in their careers and to bring some of their valuable advice to these younger actors that you attracted to this script. I'm sure that would be, it would have been like who have been a fly on the wall listening to some of the advice and things that they talked about. You also have Francesca Eastwood in the film, and I live in Carmel, California, and as you know, this is Clint Eastwood country. He was the mayor here 30 some odd years ago, and she's fascinating to watch too. I mean, her role is smaller, but she's very interesting in what she does with that. How was it working with her? Because she hasn't done a whole lot out there yet, has she?
No, we actually saw her on an episode of Fargo, I think it was, the TV show. And we said, wow, who is... I remember watching that and saying, who is that? So we looked her up, and we were searching for someone who was complete opposite of Abby. Mm-hmm. Someone that Ray just... Ray should have been with Abby, and that should have been who he should have spent the rest of his life with. She was the right girl, but he still had this was drawn to someone totally different and wild, and someone who could shoot a gun and works at the bar, like just that kind of thing. And when we looked at Francesca, she just had such an interesting look, and so much different than anyone else. And we wanted her to be sort of memorable. That she's in this story, even though she's got a small role. She sort of caused it all in some way, in a very small way.
Yes.
Ray stepped out, and Abby was not happy with that, and that relationship between the three of them. Just another layer, and so it was important to get someone that wasn't forgettable.
Yeah, and she isn't. She does stand out in this, I will say that for sure. What is your directing style together? I mean, do you direct the scenes together, or do you choose which scene each one of you is going to do, or how do you work together?
Well, because we're brothers, I guess we luckily have the same instincts and sensibilities, and we've been doing it forever. Our father was an actor, a stage actor for a long time, Peter Michael Goetz. So
he's actually Riley in the film, the guy with the metal detector.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's your dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he did theater in Minneapolis, and then he went to Broadway, and then he came out to California out here and has done a ton of pilots and TV and stuff and movies. And so we grew up underneath all of that and seeing all that happen, and did little Super 8 movies together and stuff. And then I went to graduate school at USC, and Kev went to Art Center in Pasadena, and we worked on each other's student films together. And we just always sort of did it together, and really are just one mind on set. We try to be one mind as much as we can. We're in charge of the ship, and we don't want to go in two separate directions. And so we just prep. We storyboard our scenes very, very thoroughly. We talk about what motivations the actors have and the characters. And then when we're on set, we really hope that, an actor can come up to me and ask me a question about the scene, and I can give pretty much the same response that Kev would. So we really try to be one mind and really go at it from a pure teamwork, collaborative standpoint. It
sounds like you're just in rhythm with one another then, like a musician performing. There's that balance of back and forth for both of you. If you're just tuning in, you were listening to the Jan Price Show, all about movies, and my guests today are Kevin and Michael Goetz, and we're talking about the brand new movie, A Violent Separation. One of the things that really stood out for me is the music in this movie. Talk a little bit about the composer, because that kept the tension, the movie really flowing. It just stood out. It was just an amazing composer. And you want to talk a little bit about who composed the music and what other things he may have done?
Yeah, well, that's Evan Goldman, who is pretty much a genius. He understands how music tells a story. And as Mike was talking a little bit ago about his and I sensibilities together, we feel like Evan has the same sensibility as us. He'll play some temp song over it, that he just composes real quick on his keyboard and says, this is what I'm thinking. And 9 out of 10 times, it's exactly what we were thinking as well. And then he builds it out from there. And we have a great working relationship with him where you can sit behind him and say, hey, can we put a little something here and let's draw this out there? And he just gets it. And, he done a couple of stuff with us, a couple of commercials, he did a feature that we did before. He's quite amazing, and he's got the knack for telling a story through music. And it's another cool thing is that he brings in a lot of independent cellists and violinists, and he builds them out. And so a lot of the music that might normally be synthesizers and whatnot on a budget of this size, he actually is able to kind of build out by getting 5 violinists or something and making it sound like 10 and 15 15 and 20 and 30. I mean, he just has that ability and kind of doubling and tripling them up and really bringing in real instruments and real musicians into his studio.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's about 85 minutes of music or something in the movie, maybe longer. Something right. I mean, it's almost the whole movie.
And I believe iTunes, the soundtrack's going to be available on iTunes, right? Yeah, independently of the movie too.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I highly recommend people go look for it then, because the music was just outstanding. It truly was. And that was one of the things that I definitely wanted to talk to you about, was the score behind this film. Who has influenced your career the most?
Well, it's almost the standard answer you hear a lot, but it was truthful for us, and it was Spielberg. And it almost sounds cliche to say Spielberg, but Mike and I grew up in the era of E.T. being one of the first movies I ever saw. And I remember walking out of it, and this is Kevin. I remember walking out of the theater and saying, "Okay, that's what I want to do." I think I was 5, so I never wavered from that. And so, and then both Mike and I would watch Duel over and over and over again, which is one of Spielberg's first films. And we fell in love with trucks and driving and cars, and ultimately film from Spielberg, for sure. But other influences are definitely the Coen brothers, not just because they're brothers, but because they're brilliant storytellers. And, there's certain directors out there that really like to use the camera to tell a story. And we almost feel like a camera is a tool to tell a story. And a lot of times people don't often use it the right way. And we feel like it's sort of an extension of our thoughts when we're putting together, when we're storyboarding and stuff. It just kind of comes naturally. And it's from so many years of watching these kinds of films and these people that we've looked up to for years. 2
wonderful choices. You can't go wrong with any one of them. Is it the same for you? I don't know which one was that Michael or Kevin speaking?
That's Kevin.
Kevin. Okay, Michael, is it the same for you?
Yeah. Again, going back to our sensibilities, when we went and saw movies together, we're 4 years apart, and growing up, we'd go see movies together, we'd choose the same movies, and we'd like the same movies. So we always just sort of had the same sensibility.
That works well. What's most challenging about bringing a script to life?
Well, the funny thing with The Violent Separation was that it was such a labor of love, and it took so many years to get off the ground. We called it, we're going to make this movie no matter what at some point. And that became like just a mantra between us and the producer and the writer and whoever else was involved at the time. We said, we are making this movie no matter what. And that's sort of what it takes to make an independent movie these days. The money is very hard to come by. Scheduling with all that, it's a large ensemble cast, and the scheduling. Claire was in the middle of shooting something and had to fly back and forth a lot of times. Plays Abby in the film. As I said, Brenton had to leave on a certain date. He was out of there to go back to Titan. So this no matter what movie became a real, we had to really push it up the hill. And, it's the challenges are always that there's not enough money, there's not enough time. And you have to still commence forward and make the best movie you can. And a lot of times when you wish you could take maybe another take or maybe shoot in that other side of the field over there just isn't the time. And that's independent filmmaking, and you've got to be able to roll with the punches.
Anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, this was a 113-page script, and to shoot in 17 days, I mean, we were averaging 40 setups a day. We're shooting 2 cameras. Sometimes it'd be 100 degrees with 100% humidity where you can hardly breathe.
Wow, I hate that.
And sometimes it was, and then on the second half of the shoot, when we were near the lake, of course, where all the stuff goes on around the lake, it was absolutely freezing. So there was a big cold front that came in halfway through shooting. And so we had both extremes. And it's like, it's never easy. And that's why we prep so much, because you just never know what's going to happen. And a lot of it, you never know what's going to happen over and over again, and as they do. And that's independent filmmaking no matter what. It's really fun, though, at the same time, because you have to be on your toes, and you have to be able to make quick decisions that you hopefully are that better the movie, and keep everybody happy, because there's a lot of moving parts and not a lot of time.
Well, that's what it keeps you really present. When things like that are going on, you can't just go on automatic pilot. You can you have to just constantly be completely 100% present to what you're doing to make it a good movie. What do you think the message of this movie is, without giving them too much away?
That's a
Well, the biggest theme that we loved about it when we first read it, being brothers, was when the bonds and the things that tie us as an organic family are when those are tested. How far will you go for your loved ones? And then to twist that on its head, when you start to branch out and become a man from a child and start your own new family, who are your allegiances to, those that you grew up with, and then trying to make your new life with this new family moving forward. At its heart, it's really a story about how far you'll go for your loved ones and what will you sacrifice for them. We just were always attracted to that story between these two brothers who are so haunted by something that happened that was sort of out of their control, and not to give the ending away, but just something that's haunting in that, how far will you go and what will you do for each other?
And each of the characters does that. Even Frances, played by Alicia Dudnam Carey, who's great as well. Her choice she has to make, obviously, is balanced on family versus morality, and so it's kind of this large morality tale that we love to take kind of ordinary people and put them in extraordinary situations and see how they react. Just watch them sort of unfold in a very human way. And so, that's what attracted us to it, for sure.
Oh, I was also curious as to whether you were attracted to it because you're both, obviously you're brothers, and this film is about brothers. Was that also underlying when you read the script?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's that bond, and it's just, and we love it when we give people questions in the audience. A lot of people say, "Oh, the ending of this or that," and it left you thinking. That's the kind of endings we love. Mm-hmm. And you sort of touched on in the beginning when you said that it makes you think about it afterwards. The ambiguous ending, to a point, we don't want to, anger people, but we do want to leave, especially in a story like this where family has been torn apart, ripped apart, and, maybe brought back together here at the end, maybe not. And that's the whole point, is that we want people to just have a conversation and say, wow, what's going to happen now after we've just been through all that? And, yeah.
Well, it was very fascinating. You're right. Alicia, Debnam, how do you say her name? Debnam Carey. See how she changes throughout the film and how she becomes the heart of the film. And she is, along with Brenton Thwaites, and also seeing how he evolves too. I mean, I thought that was really great, because sometimes, the actors can keep it at one note, instead of playing the full symphony when they're acting. And I felt that all of the actors came and played a full symphony. They didn't stay on one note. And I think that's why it was so compelling to watch, because it's all about, it's always about the script. But there's only so much you can do with the script. It's the actors who bring it alive. And then, of course, the directors and the editing, ultimately, too. I talked to a lot of editors, and I know that, a film can live or die in the editing room. Did you have a big hand in the editing? Did you get really actively involved with that process?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, every process. I mean, from the sound design to the music to the editing, of course. Yeah, we are there for every step of it. And editing this was difficult. There was a lot of stuff that we had to kind of get rid of just to try to keep the story moving. So editing was really long on this. I think we did at least 6 months of editing.
Oh, good. Wow, that is a long time.
And then had even a couple of weeks off, and then went back in and did some more. So. Which is very helpful, because you can kind of get this perspective when you step away for a bit. And it was, we had another project that we had to go do, so we stepped away, then we came back, and were able to finish it. So,
and also the majority of films have reshoots that sometimes they have the benefit of being able to go back and, shoot a couple days even, or a week of things that you find out you need later in the edit. And we didn't have that luxury, so it took us a little longer in the editorial room to, keep making things work without that luxury.
Well, thank you both for being on the show. I wish you much success. Where can people see A Violent Separation?
It opens this Friday in 10 cities nationwide, including Los Angeles, Dallas, Denver, New York, Chicago.
Which is May 17th.
May 17th, sorry. And then also comes out on VOD on iTunes, same day.
And all platforms.
Wonderful, wonderful. Which wish you much, much success on this film. Thank you for being on the show. If you want, you can tune in to the Jan Price Show on Facebook and learn more about upcoming shows while you're there. Please like my page and please write a comment so we can know what you're thinking. And to listen to the Price Movie Minute movie reviews and listen to archived shows that you may have missed, go to thejanpriceshow.com, and also to listen to the Jan Price Show on iHeart's podcast channel.
On Power Talk AM 1460 and FM 101.1, streaming worldwide on iHeartRadio. Jan Price talks to the movers and shakers in the film business. The Jan Price Show.
The Ozio Theater in downtown Monterey is now open every day, showing independent and foreign films. The Ozio Theater has new concession offerings, including beer, wine, hard cider, and their homemade Lush Slush. You can now schedule private event screenings for community charity events, birthdays, anniversaries, or just a fun gathering of friends. For more information, visit the Ozio Theater online at oziotheater.com.